Hello, friends. Welcome to my channel, Learn with Rushan. So today we are going to discuss about another topic related to Angular, which is called Angular Behavior Subject and Async Pipe. So let's get started. So these are the items that we are going to talk about. Let's first identify uh, or let's first get introduced to observable, and then let's get to know what is behavior subject, what is async pipe, and then we'll look into a sample application or a demo application, and finally uh, let's conclude accordingly. Right. Now, what is an observable? Actually, observable is a special type of asynchronous pattern, right? Now, in this pattern, there are two main components which are known as observer in one side and there is an observable in the other side. Okay, so observable will always have the data into which an observer will subscribe and get the value from the observable. In other words, observer will subscribe into an observable so that it receives the value which is emitted by the observable. Okay. So due to the fact that the observer subscribes into the observable to receive the value that the observable emits, observer is also known as subscriber. Observer is also known as subscriber. Okay, that is a high level introduction to this observer observable pattern. Okay, now what is behavior subject? Okay, so behavior subject is nothing but a subtype of observable, right? Now, in simple terms, when it comes to C sharp or Java or any other language, we have superclasses, we have subclasses, right? So let's take observable as a superclass. Okay, behavior subject will have all the features of the superclass observable and special type of features in it. So behavior subject is a special type of observer, right? So what are the features of behavior subject? Behavior subject actually needs to have an initial value with it. Okay, it should have an initial value with it, and whenever its value gets changed, whenever the behavior subject value uh, gets changed, right? uh, it has the special ability to reflect that change or broadcast that change to the subscribers who have subscribed this behavior subject observable. So, behavior subject is an observable, therefore, one or more subscribers can subscribe into that observable. Okay, so the advantage of behavior subject is whenever the value of its changes, that value change can be reflected, or in other words can be broadcasted automatically to all the subscribers who have subscribed into this behavior subject. Okay, great. So what is async pipe, right? Now we got to know a high level idea about behavior subject, which is a special type of observable which has an initial value, right? And it will always return its current value to all the subscribers who have subscribed to it. Or in other words, whenever the value of behavior subject changes, it will always reflect that change, or it will always broadcast the current value of its to the subscribers who have subscribed to the behavior subject. It's a broadcasting mechanism in Angular web application. Okay. Now, what is async pipe? Async pipe is a special pipe operator in Angular. Okay. Now, as you may have known, right? Some of you who have used Angular, uh, in order to emit, or rather, in order to use the value which is emitted by an observable, right? An observer or a subscriber has to subscribe. So we have to write that code of subscription to get the value into the observer or the subscriber. Now, async pipe will reduce that extra coding immensely for the observer component, or for the subscriber component. How? We can use the async pipe in the subscriber component. Okay, and what it can do is async pipe will take care of subscribing to the observable that the observer or the subscriber wants to subscribe into, right? Async pipe will take care of that operation, right? So what the async pipe does is it will keep on observing the observable, right, into which the subscriber wants to subscribe to, right? And it will observe that observable, and async pipe will automatically subscribe to that observable. Okay, async pipe will observe the observable and automatically subscribe to that particular observable, right? And it will always return the latest value in which the observable possess. It will always return the latest value in which the observable possesses into the subscriber component. Okay, so for example, whenever the value of the observable changes, right, async pipe will keep on observing that observable, right? So whenever the value of that observable changes, async pipe will subscribe to that observable, right, and get the latest value the observable possesses into the subscriber or the observer, right? Okay, and the other advantage is, now let's say the user gets into a new component or loads a new component in the Angular single page application. How? He will simply create another link so that a new component will load to the router outlet. Okay, in that case the current component that the user has been working on will get destroyed. So upon component destruction, okay, what the async pipe will do is, upon component destruction, it will automatically unsubscribe to the observable that it has been subscribing into uh, for the receiving of values, right? And release the resources that it has been holding for the subscription. Okay, async pipe will automatically unsubscribe to the observable so that the resources being held for the subscription of the observable is released, right? So the subscription, value emission, and unsubscription to the observable are handled automatically by async pipe. Okay, so with this, the advantage is we can achieve uh, avoiding potential memory leaks via the async operator, right? Okay, I hope you got a idea about behavior subject as well as async pipe and high level idea about the observable. Okay, so let us get into a demo application, right, which I created. Let us observe this code. Okay, now this is a very simple Angular application which I created, just the UI application. Okay, now if you can see here, I have the root component, and then I have the footer component and the header component with me. Simple components: footer component, header component, and the root app component, right? These are the three components that I have. In addition, I created a service called API service. So let's first get into this Angular singleton service. Okay, so if you observe this code here, right, this is a simple uh, Angular service. Okay, I have created a variable called broadcast message, which is private variable, and assign an instance of behavior subject with an initial value of 1, with an initial value of 1. And then I have also exposed a public property uh, in the name broadcast dollar. Okay, public property, or in other words, simply say public variable. And I have assigned this private variable using the as observable method into this public variable. Okay, I will explain the purpose of this public variable a bit later. Okay, and then I have three methods here: update message value to 2. As you can see, the initial value is 1. So what this method does is it will update the value of this behavior subject broadcast message to 2 using the next method. Okay, same way, there are two other methods which will update the value of broadcast message to 5 and to 10. Three simple methods. Okay, now this is the code for the service. Okay, right. Then let me get into the footer component and header component I created. Both are having similar kind of code, but let's observe the, let's say I will take header component, right? So in the header component, I simply declared a variable, okay, as broadcast dollar in type of observable, and the data type being number. Okay, data type being number. And then via Angular dependency injection, I get an instance of my Angular service which I just showed you. Okay, API service, right? And then what I do is, now I told you about a public variable that I created in the Angular service itself. This dot API service dot broadcast dollar. So let me click on F12 and go back to the service and show you again. Okay, so this is what I am talking about, the public variable uh, into which this behavior subject instance can be referred from outside. Okay, because this private variable is accessible only within the service class itself, but if you want to expose this uh, behavior subject instance to be accessed by other components outside of this service class, we have to expose a public variable, and that's the reason I created this. Okay, and then I simply got it assigned here, right? So you may wonder that I actually declared the broadcast dollar variable as observable type. Okay, but the actual type of this public variable is of type behavior subject, right? Behavior subject. So as I told you, behavior subject is a special type of observable. Therefore we can assign it to a variable of type observable. Okay, I have assigned it in the component initialization of header component, right? Okay, that's one part. In the footer component also, I have done the same thing. Same thing. In the footer component also, I have done the same thing via Angular dependency injection. I got API service instance, and then I call the public variable or the behavior subject variable, and got it assigned to this variable of type observable. Observable. Okay, right? So the type of this observable is number, Angular number type. Okay, if you go inside this service again, the type of this behavior subject is number. That's why we are holding value of 1. That's why we are changing the value to 2, to 5, to 10. Okay, right. Excellent. Okay, so this is the code of the footer component. Okay, we have simply assigned the behavior subject into the variable of type observable within the component initialization method. That's the second step. Okay, now let us go to the app component dot html html class, right? Now here I have declared a paragraph, or I have simply mentioned, specified a paragraph with text. This is the header component, and then I load the header component here. Now forget about the route outlet, because we are not going to actually implement routing in this demo application, right? And then the next part is, this is the footer component, and this is the footer component that I have specified here. Okay, simply the footer component, which is actually I'm referring to this component selector. Okay, now this is the important section. In the app component, right, I have mentioned 3 divs. Okay, three divs in which in each div I have a button, and on the click event, right, on the click event I am calling three methods: update message value to 2, update message value to 5, update message value to 10. So what is the purpose of these three methods? Let's go and find out in the app component.ts class. Okay, let's go and find out here. Right here in the app component.ts also, via Angular dependency injection, I get another uh, instance of I get an instance of the Angular service, which is a singleton instance maintained in the application. I will get an instance of this Angular service. Okay, and then as I showed you in the HTML, I am calling three methods here, right? These three methods. And now what happens in the component TS class is that these three methods internally calls the API service dot update value to 2, update value to 5, update value to 10. Now what is the purpose of these three methods? It is going to change the value of the behavior subject. What is the initial value? Initial value is 1. And via clicking these three buttons, one of these three buttons, right? We have wired up this method into the click event of three buttons, right? By clicking one of the buttons, right, we can simply change the value of the behavior subject observable to 2, to 5, or to 10. That is the purpose of having these three methods. Okay, so I think I have showed you the entire code structure, right? So let us simply run the application and see. Okay, right? So I'm going to run the application using Node.js. Okay, let's see what happens. So that I want to show you how the broadcasting actually happens, right? It will take some time to get this startup, right? Okay, so remember the initial value of the behavior subject was assigned to 1. So I will show that again to you. If you go to the service, right, the initial value is 1, right? So this initial value should be reflected to the two components, footer component and header component. Okay, and then we are going to change the value to 2, 5, and 10 by clicking the buttons, right? And in the meantime, uh, I will show you how I have used the async pipe for the subscription. That part I forgot actually, right? So if you go to this header and footer HTML, right? Now I showed you, let me close all this. I showed you that in TypeScript of header component, we have got the observable being assigned here. Okay, simply assigned here. Now who is going to subscribe to this observable? Who is going to do that? That is done by the async pipe. Let me show that part also. That is one thing, one important thing, right? I may have missed. In the header component, simply in the HTML, you just have to do this. In the Angular interpolation, you have to refer to the broadcast dollar variable, which is this one. Okay. And simply you have to do this broadcast dollar and async pipe. That's all. Async pipe will take care of the subscription, value emission, and unsubscription all together, which we don't have to worry about. The same thing has been done for the footer component also. Footer component, same thing has been done. Using async pipe, the subscription, value emission, and displaying and unsubscription happens. We have used the Angular interpolation operator here. Okay. Now I think the application has loaded. Now see, this is the initial value. Header component also having 1. Footer component also having 1. Then in the root component, I have these 3 buttons, right? Header component, I have just the message. Footer component, I have just the message. And it is showing the initial value of the behavior subject, which is 1. And in the root component, I have 3 buttons to change the value of the behavior subject. Okay. Let me click on 2. What happened? The behavior subject value got changed into 2, and that value change got reflected, got broadcasted into header component and footer component. Why? Both of those components are subscribing to this behavior subject observable via async pipe. That's why the change got reflected or broadcasted to both of them. If you click on 5, this is what happens. If you click on 10, this is what happens. Right. If you click on refresh, again it will change to 1. Why? The Angular application got initialized, reinitialized, and again the value got changed into the initial value of behavior subject, which is 1. And again you can change 2, 5, 10. Okay, so this is a concept, right? This is a concept which you can use to your day-to-day practical applications. One such practical example would be, okay, let's say in a shopping cart application you want to show the basket, right? And you want to show the number of items in the basket. Okay, so whenever a user adds items into a basket of the shopping cart, right, application, the number of items changes. Okay, so to show that change in multiple components parallelly, right, you can use this behavior subject observable. You can use behavior subject observable. So whenever the value changes, you can keep the basket in a behavior subject, and then whenever the value changes in the behavior subject, that change can be reflected to multiple components by parallel broadcasting to multiple components, uh, by making the components subscribe into that behavior subject via async pipe. You don't necessarily need to use async pipe. If you want, you can even use any other general subscription code also. So I hope this tutorial was useful to you. If you found it useful, please like it, comment, and subscribe. And also send your valuable comments to uh, learnwithrushan at gmail.com. Okay, so that we can further improve ourselves. Okay, so thank you very much. Happy coding.